It's time to rev your engines. The Syracuse Nationals proudly presents the Cavalcade of Cars, March 22nd through 23rd at the New York State Fairgrounds. The two-day indoor car show features all the classics, plus lifted trucks, Jeeps, motorcycles, and more. Cavalcade of Cars, CNY.com.
You know what I love, Steve? Being a jerk.
Listen, dude, we've been doing a show for 90 minutes.
I had a chance to listen to the last call. We game plan for PJ Hall.
Uncle. I have a list of guys I would never hang out with. Your name is right on the top.
Do you like the worst song bracket we're doing?
It's considerably better than the supplement bracket. Let's start with that.
I won a limbo contest.
Oh, my God.
Fran Brown joining us.
These guys are working their butts off. They expect to see that fan.
You want extra money just because you're North Carolina? I'm in all right
What
now.
an honor for you and Jordan to be next to me.
Every day.
This is Orange Nation.
There's music, there's fun, there's us. It's everything you could want all in one place.
With Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you with us alongside Paulie Sibilia. I'm Stephen Fonte. It's a Wednesday edition of Orange Nation, game day edition of the show. NC State in town. We'll talk with Dr. Todd Battaglia from SOS. It's our weekly SOS house call at 12:30. Atan Thomas joins us at 1 o'clock. And then Cory Smith, editor of PackPride, to give us the lowdown on the NC State Wolfpack. He'll be on with us at 1:15. Plus, we'll mix in your phone calls throughout at 315-437-7644. What's up, Paulie?
Not much, Steve. How was your night?
My night was okay.
All right.
I just had the revelation as I was listening to the open of the show that, oh, yeah, that's right. We've got to do another bracket here pretty soon.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
I think bird bracket this year. 64 best birds. Blame it on Coach Autry. If he got the damn team to the tournament, he wouldn't have to worry about us doing our own stupid tournament.
All right.
Let me start the show.
Okay,
today,
please,
Steve.
go ahead.
Please. May I take the floor? We get called homers a lot, right?
Yes.
We get called accused of making excuses for the coaching staff.
Yes.
Tonight, on Wednesday, February 26, 2025, Syracuse is playing NC State in a must-win game to make the ACC tournament. This is a game, Steve, that can never, ever, and I mean ever, happen again at Syracuse University. It might happen again, but it can't ever happen. There cannot be a time when Syracuse University is playing for its life to make the ACC tournament this late in the season again.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
It kind of hit me last night. You know, it's okay for other schools. This isn't okay for Syracuse. And I'm sure the coaches know that too. It just, I can't. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and with that in mind, you know, along those lines, I mean, I know a lot of fans, or at least it feels like a lot of fans based on our show, right? The people who call in, the people who comment in the chat. It seems like a lot of people have moved on from this season and that, you know, it's over. They're already thinking about next year, and I understand why that is. I think for the players and the coaches and the university and the program and everybody involved with SU basketball, this game matters.
Yeah.
Like to your point, they can't not make the ACC tournament. I know it's a double negative, but
right.
you understand what I'm saying. Like they have to win this game. They have to play their way into the ACC tournament. They can't be sitting home for that week. You know, it's one thing to be sitting home for the NCAA. Like that's not good either. But to miss the conference tournament would be a catastrophe.
Yes, I remember Paulie saying Cuse does not make the ACC tournament. It's officially rock bottom. It will be. And then okay with the coach getting a year 3. Yeah, I am. I've explained it a million times.
Right.
There's reasons they're in this position that are also beyond the coaching.
Sure. Right. Plenty of blame to go around.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And so it doesn't.
Coaches,
it's
players.
I'm
NIL,
still where I am.
Yeah. I'm still where I am too. He's coming back next year, and I don't want to go down that path.
No, but you know what it'll do? It'll make it gives Syracuse University leverage in saying, look.
I think they're already there.
Yeah, I know. But look, they could, if they win a couple games here and down the stretch, if they do make the tournament, then you're like, okay, you're figuring it out. If that happens, it's make or break for you this year.
Yeah. I kind of feel like they're there either way, that, next year is vitally important for everybody involved with this thing. But, yeah, I mean, I think it would drive home the point, I guess, is what you're saying. If you miss out on the ACC tournament, then it's like, okay, this is the bar next year. Hit it or don't, and it's up to you. I think they're kind of there either way. But, I don't know. I'm kind of curious, like, for those who listen to the show and those, who watch the show on QSportsTalk.com, does this feel like an important – I'm not going to say big game because, it's not necessarily a big game. I think it's an important game, though.
Yeah,
right?
It
is for the players. It is for the program. Is it to the fans? Like, do the fans care? I'm genuinely curious about that. Like, people who said they gave up on this team weeks ago and they're not going to watch and they haven't been watching. And is this one you watch? Because, again, I think it's important for these guys to get to the ACC tournament.
I was saying to Jordan yesterday, it'd be nice if the fans came out and actually rooted for these guys. Even if you hate the coach, go out and root for the kids, right? You want these kids to be able to play in the ACC tournament, right? They haven't done anything wrong,
Yeah, I mean, the comment comes up in the chat, if the coach is coming back, why is it a big game? And I think you hit it right there. Like, there are players on this team that are, after this year, they're not going to play college basketball anymore. We talked to Eddie Lampkin yesterday on the TV side of things, and he talked about how, this game is a must-win for. Like, he kind of said he's taking it upon himself, like personal responsibility, to make sure that everybody plays hard and that they win this game. Because, again, like, college athletes have a finite amount of time to get to play these games. And for the seniors, the guys who are done after this year, their time is running short. And they certainly don't want to go out and not be in the postseason to any degree.
If the coach is being brought back no matter what, why is it a big game? Did you not just hear me? There's college. Yes, they're getting paid, but they're college kids. Like, go out and root for them. What did they do? I know they don't live up to your standards. Some of them, you're sitting there with your chicken wing fingers saying they're out of shape and whatnot. Oh, they can't wear back braces and they don't dress properly. They're college kids. Go out and root for them. You want them to go to the ACC tournament. Even if you hate the coach.
See, I think we're getting our answer in the chat. I'm seeing the comments. Dilemma Q says they're getting paid. They don't care. I don't believe that. Like, they're getting paid. I still think they care.
Yes,
like
don't be
you're
stupid.
If you're a competitor, if you're a Division I athlete, you didn't get here by not caring, right? You put in a lot of time and effort and hard work to make yourself a Division I athlete. It wasn't all sunshine and roses and lollipops along the way. Like, you hit adversity at some point. These guys care about what they do. And if they don't, then I would question whether or not they're a competitor. Because if you're a competitor, you care.
You know what? I was happy with this conversation. Now I'm about to lose my crap.
Okay.
Andropolis 88 says not one person has stated anything about the kids. Stop manufacturing something that isn't there. Jaquan Carlos has been bombarded in our chat by callers in this fan base. Eddie Lampkin has been called fat and out of shape and too busy working on his restaurant. JJ Starling he's not the number one guy. He's a number two. We can't have him be number one. Don't try and come at it now like, oh, no, we don't talk about the players. Yeah, you do.
All right, well, let's get a phone call in here before we hit our first break. We've got Matt Gavendel's going to chime in. Matt, what's up?
You want the fans' perspective?
Yeah.
I can give you my perspective. The season's over and people have checked out. And I think they know that regardless if we make the ACC tournament or not. But also we can't throw Adrian Autry out on his butt, right? Because the guy's given us so much time as a player, so much time as a coach. He deserves a fair shot. He got the recruits he got. He's got to hit the portal hard. We've talked about this. But, the fans are checked out. And unfortunately, they are. And you can't blame them. I want to know why the university doesn't care about sports anymore. It's not a priority. So people care, and they're getting all up in arms and fighting with each other and having these conversations. But guess what? The university doesn't care anymore. And why should we care? Why should we give our money?
Why do you say that they don't care? Do you think they care about football this year?
Do they care about sports less or more in the last 5 years, Steve? And I know you work for them. I know
I don't work for the. I mean, I'm an adjunct there, but I mean, I don't work for the athletic department. I don't work for the university. I mean, do they care more or less? Listen. I
think they screwed up.
Yeah, I was going to say the results haven't been there. I don't think that means that they don't care. I think you look at what they did with football. I think you could make the case that they care more about football now, right? They gave
You would hope.
It seems like it, signing Jeff Nixon to an extension, and it seems like they gave Fran Brown what he needed from an NIL perspective, and made sure that they could help facilitate that and make that happen. And it seems like they care about football.
We're behind the eight ball.
Yeah, they screwed up.
Right?
They screwed up.
Right. So to me, that says, hey, either you don't care or you're too oblivious to know. So what's going on?
I would probably go with the oblivious.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you because it's crazy. So I appreciate you guys.
No problem. Here's something else that's come up. With them making six figures, it's hard for me to feel woe is me. How many? Did you guys see the article that Mike Waters wrote? We've gone over it a billion. Do you think Jaquan Carlos is making six figures?
No.
You're stupid if you do. Yeah, there's no one on. Eddie Lampkin got a good chunk of money. I don't think any else of them are really, getting a lot of money. JJ probably got some.
Yeah, I would assume so.
But I don't even know that it's six figures. Do you?
I mean, I don't know the dollar amounts. They don't make those things public. I would guess it probably is, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't feel confident saying yes.
Yeah. I do think if they're going to keep him, it's got to be that, right? Him and Donnie, seeing what the numbers are out there these days. I think that seems pretty obvious that you would need to pay that to keep them.
Hot take: Eddie Lampkin was not a mistake from Supercat. I don't dislike the way Eddie Lampkin plays. I enjoy him. I like his effort. Here's the thing. I think they overpaid a center for that position. They should have spent the money elsewhere. And I don't blame that on Eddie Lampkin. But that's the way it is. You may be right. I didn't say nobody else was making over six figures, but I could probably guarantee you Jaquan Carlos is not. Elijah Moore is probably not.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you.
Not every player is loaded. If they were, none of these players, if they had the money that you guys think these guys are making, they'd be a lot better of a basketball team no matter who the coach was.
Yeah.
And DJ Cicero says, regardless, college sports are now completely ruined. Steve and I just had that conversation before the show.
Yeah, we were talking off air about that.
It
does, yeah. Yeah. And I understand why fans get turned off now and say, the comment came up in the chat about how it's not like it used to be. It's
not fun. Next year you're going to be rooting for just the jersey now.
Right.
You're not rooting for players.
Right. And everybody can leave as much as I really do think that they should limit how many times you can transfer. But I don't know that they will. The NCAA went from having a ton of restrictions in place, too many restrictions,
the power
micromanaging to now it's the opposite.
Yeah, the power is completely shifted.
Now it feels like there's no rules. And you want a year of eligibility, fine. Although, we don't know what was going to happen with Kyle McCord, but it was, You want a year of eligibility, or you got a reason? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
We'll give you a year of eligibility, whatever the reason is. It's fine. It's different now, yeah. And I do think that may lead to a little bit more of the fan discontent, because it feels like, they're not necessarily amateur athletes anymore. They're getting paid. It feels like they're employees, so they're not doing their job, quote unquote.
Let me ask you a question, and I don't know if this is. Do you think the ACC, like we saw the SEC, has the money to supply both sports and succeed? Do you think the ACC, in the midst of all of this conference expansion, said, uh-oh, our football product is terrible, which it kind of is, and they kind of the past 2 years have spent on football?
Well, yes, and I've said that. We've talked about that in recent weeks, and I said I think now is the time to, if you're serious about basketball, you better give them the resources they need, especially for this offseason.
But there's schools in the ACC that can't do both.
Yeah.
Syracuse may be one. BC may be one.
Well, with
Wake Forest may be one.
With the settlement going through and the rules changing a little bit,
but that just raises the floor.
I understand, but
it changes nothing.
But no, it doesn't change nothing. It allows you, if you are serious about it, you can delineate those dollars to where you want them to go.
Yeah, but everybody has those.
Right, but now you, as a university, you could directly do it now, which you couldn't do that in the past.
I know, but it doesn't. It's the same exact spot you were in before. Because guess what? Alabama's got that $20 million too.
I understand. I don't think it's the same thing, because you were completely relying on collectives and outside funds before, companies. Now at least, like, you can build that into your budget as a university and say, all right, we're going to add this amount, to what we're giving to NIL to the student athletes. So I don't think it's quite the same. I do think I think it's different now. It's going to be different, and I think you're going to see which schools are really serious and which schools are kind of serious, And we still don't know, where Syracuse is going to fall. They're saying all the right things now, that they're really serious. We'll see what happens as things move along. Right. I do think it's different now, though. With once this thing goes through,
it's not really. I hate to break that to you. Everybody's got the same amount of money. It's not going to change anything, except for you may be able to get one player that you wanted, because you could say
you have more as a university now. You have more control where the dollars go and who they go to, and
you don't think they did now?
I mean, to some degree, I think now it puts it under your umbrella. It puts it under your roof. Like, you truly have all of the control over how this thing works, opposed to dealing with collectives and donors. And you're still going to. I said that, and you're still going to have to do that. But you have more control over the situation now than you did before.
All right. I don't think it's going to help. I think it's going to be the exact same next year. Auburn's going to have the most expensive, team, and Syracuse will be probably in the middle of the pack.
I do think that it has the potential to create a bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots, or, again, those who are serious and those who are kind of serious. I think you're going to see that gap is going to continue to grow. But it's up to you. Like, the way these rules are changing is up to each individual university now. How serious do you want to be? And I think we're going to see that over the course of the next few years. We'll take a timeout. 315-437-7644 if you want to chime in. We do have our weekly SOS house call at 12:30, so now is a good time to call. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.
Basketball head coach Adrian Autry joins Orange Nation every Thursday at 1. Brought to you by IBEW Local 43, Haler, Fryer & Kuhn, and Burdick BM.
Somebody in the chat asked about, I forget who it was because I was trying to go back. I can't find the comment, but somebody asked, I said, I think they should limit transfers. Should you limit coaches leaving? Obviously, no, you're not going to limit coaches leaving, but they have something called a contract that they sign. And if they want to get out of the contract, somebody's got to buy them out of the contract. So that's what's keeping them there. They're not leaving schools every 1 year to go somewhere else because they can't. And if they do, it's because they're buying them out of their contract. If you want to build into the rules that if your coach leaves, then you can transfer at, no fault of your own, or that won't count against you, I'm completely fine with that. If your coach leaves, you can transfer. But that's not, if we're being honest here, like, if we're being logical, that's not what's happening. The coaches aren't leaving every year. The players are leaving every year. So, yes, I think they should limit how many times you can transfer. One-time transfer with no penalty, and if your coach leaves, then that's no penalty either. But I don't think this leaving every season is good for anybody.
It'll change.
What rule already exists, Philly's Most Wanted? Yes, I understand. I'm saying if you went to my situation about if you can only transfer once, I'm saying it wouldn't count against you. Right now, nothing counts against you. You can transfer as much as you want.
They have not. They just said they will spend it all. Yeah, there's going to be a time where these guys get unionized and there's a collective bargaining agreement. It's just not happening until this rule, everything gets straightened out.
Yeah, and D-Cirque, I do think that is something that they should look at, the multi-year contracts. Yeah, Philly's Most Wanted, I understand that you can leave if your coach leaves. I'm saying if you go, I think we're on a delay here, but I'm saying that if you put a rule in place where you can only transfer once, I'm saying that wouldn't, that still wouldn't count against you if you transferred and your coach left. But right now, they can come and go as they please. I just don't think it's good for the game.
Thank you very much, Gaper Bazingoid. I took a shower today.
What does that say? Tim?
Yeah. I do. I do clean up well. I'm a handsome old man. Thank you. Lazar Sims is turning into Scooter, by the way.
What?
He's just calling every show.
Oh, why he did? He called him more than ours.
Yeah.
Who else did
he called Brian. I don't use any hair product, you son of a bitch. This is my natural hair color. Do you want me to get Elise on the phone who does my hair? Because I will call her. And she will tell you she's never dyed my hair.
The girl who does your hair?
Yes, the girl who does my hair.
No, I don't think we're double dating San Diego Cuse. He doesn't want to. I'm trying.
I don't know if I can even get another date. I don't know how the last one went.
He doesn't want any part of it.
I don't even know if it was a date.
He doesn't want any part of me. I'm trying, but...
I have an idea LDO with Just for Men. Oh, this sounds glorious. I could be taking calls right now about the Padres spring training and the San Diego State Aztecs beat New Mexico State. And everybody be happy. Their soccer team beat the Galaxy in their first game ever. Everybody be happy. People here would be happy because the homer would be gone. I could go west like the Pet Shop Boys, Steve. I'd bring you with me.
No, you wouldn't. We've talked about this already. You said you wouldn't.
This time I would.
This time you would.
Because nobody deserves to be left with our with our chat and the people that call the show. That is a war crime.
I appreciate that. Let's get a phone call in. Tim in Eastwood is up next. Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys. I'm one fan that's still engaged. I mean, has the season been up to snuff? No. But I still root for the kids. I still root for the coach. I still root for the university like I have, since the late 70s. Do things need to change? Yes. Hopefully the financial situation, it appears, is being upgraded starting next year. Hopefully that we'll see the results over the summer. And in my opinion, and I'm probably wrong, that if you're a fan and you're not at least contributing at least a little bit to the NIL, the Orange United has a $10.99 a month plan. If you're not at least contributing, then you know what? I don't really care what you have to say, because you, instead of being a problem, be part of the solution. So that's my take on the whole thing. I think tonight's a big game. I really hope they win it. And, I don't want to, I always, this season, I've always said, if they go over this stretch of games, I've gotten to the point where, you know what, just one game at a time. And it's been that way since about game 10. So I'm optimistic. Hopefully they can play well. They've had more than a week off. They should be well rested. And hopefully they can take care of business and come out with a victory tonight.
All right, Tim.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you checking in. Yeah, I mean, that's the other side of it, right, Paulie? That some are still investing this season. And if you are, this is a big game tonight. Right?
I take a little umbrage with you can't care if you're not paying.
Yeah, right. I mean, not everybody can contribute.
Yeah, but
right.
There is a point where this is kind of on the fans now. It's a horrible situation to be in. But if you're in here crapping on how bad the roster is and you're not helping, that's not good.
Yeah. Right. You can
afford it.
You can still care. Right. Yeah.
And you're probably going to get taxed for it now. You're probably going to see an increase in ticket prices at some point, or food prices, because they need to get the money.
And
so you're going to end up paying for it whether you donate or not.
You hear the saying, the system is broken in various walks of life. It feels like the system is broken right now.
All right. So I don't know the whole details on the whole 20% goes to the CEO or the employees. That's going to happen if it's not in-house or whatever. You've got to pay your employees. So part of I don't think there's anywhere where 100% of it goes to, unless it's some independently wealthy guy running it and doing it just out of the kindness of his heart.
Yeah. And again, there are different options out there, and we're trying to get John Wildhack on, and I think we may have him on next week. Paulie, is that right? Is that what we're being told? And we can ask him about the various options that fans have, and what should they do, because it is confusing, it is complicated. If you're going to donate, you want to make sure your dollars are going to where you want your dollars to go. So how can fans make sure that happens? That's something that we can have him address, certainly. All right. I see the phone's ringing.
Someone's saying I'm pressing a button and sending money to the computer and it's accepting the donation. What employees? I'm sure they have employees, guys, that have to go out and talk to the donors and buy them lunch and dinner and, convince them to do it. Not everybody's just finding the website on Google.
Administrative fees, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are obviously things that go into it, but 20%, if that is indeed the number, that seems exorbitant. All right, we'll hit a timeout here. We've got to get to our weekly SOS house call, so we'll take a timeout. Dr. Todd Battaglia joins us next on ESPN Radio.
It happens at charities, too. Like, charities have to pay their employees. There's very few people that can afford to run a charity and not keep some money to pay people to work there.
Can you ask them if this is Dr. Todd, I assume?
You're asking him right now. Is that Dr. Todd on the phone, guys?
CJC, I'm not sure it's a $60K private institution anymore. I believe that the
Hobart
tuition's
had a rich
over
guy
$80,
die.
I think.
So you're hoping for someone to die with $70 million to donate to NIL? Let's all pray.
I think when you take into account room and board, I think it's...
Guys, is that
over
Dr.
80.
Todd on the phone? I don't see it.
I was also trying to open this, which I did after Georgia broke down some of how they're going to distribute the revenue, which I think is interesting because obviously we're all confused how that's going to go.
Georgia University did that, you're saying?
Yeah, Ross. I just opened it up. It's on Ross Dellinger's Twitter, but Georgia. Let me find. I haven't really read through this.
Oh yeah, but what does Georgia tell us? It tells us what they're doing.
It tells us what a successful university plans to do with it.
But Syracuse might have to do it differently because they want their lacrosse programs to be good.
I mean, they might, but I don't know. This is, from my knowledge, the first we've seen of a school actually talking about it. 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, 5% to women's basketball, 5% to others. I just think it's interesting that they came out and they said it, because we're not seeing that very much. No, I also think what we can say is if Georgia's, well, I guess it's a question. If Georgia's giving 75% to football, do you think that's more or less than other schools? Because there's also the argument that
I think all SEC schools will be in that range.
Okay. It seems like they give more, but I think there's also the argument that more NIL at Georgia would already go to football, so maybe they don't.
But schools like Stanford are screwed. Like you've got good golf programs,
Water polo, volleyball.
They're like national champs and everything, and they're gonna have to start paying those people.
I think this was all made to hold Stanford down. I think they want Stanford out of the Olympic sport. They're dominant.
No, but they can't. They definitely can't use that model.
I'm not going to be able to afford rent if I can't bet on Stanford water polo every year.
They take that seriously on the West Coast.
Like if I can't bet on Western Kentucky's dressage team, I don't know what.
I played water polo. That is no joke. I would never.
Wait, you did?
Yeah, that was child abuse that my parents made me play water polo as a kid.
Dude, we used to at summer camp. We used to do water polo.
Our practice was just an hour of treading water. It was brutal.
No, water polo. You try to play it casually, and you sit there like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, it was child abuse.
Like these people are like
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't born big enough to play Pop Warner. Why are you doing this to me? Like I didn't. I think I'd rather get tackled by a guy 4 times my size.
Listen to ESPN Radio Syracuse for your chance to win tickets to SU games and concerts. The Charles Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electrical Ticket Window.
I don't have a cap anymore. You just think I keep this. Welcome back to Orange Nation. The Pet Shop Boys always on my mind.
Really? The Pet Shop Boys are always on your mind?
That's the name of the song.
I know. I was trying to be funny.
Yeah, well, yeah. Leave the funny to me,
All
sir.
right. Okay.
I was just talking about how one year in California when I was growing up, my parents made me play water polo in the break. It was borderline child abuse. I hated it.
You got to be in insane shape to play that.
Yeah. Practice was just an hour of treading water, and then they'd throw balls at you like 1,000. It was like playing dodgeball in the water. It was horrible.
Sounds pleasant.
Your coach, you just beating you right in the head with a volleyball. It wasn't fun.
And with that segue, we bring on Dr. Todd Battaglia from SOS. Dr. Battaglia, board-certified, fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon and head orthopedist for Syracuse University and Lemoyne College athletic teams. Dr. Todd, great to have you on. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing all right. Let's start in the NBA. And Victor Wembanyama shut down for the season with, I guess, what is essentially a blood clot. And, we saw this with Chris Bosh, right? He had to, shorten his career, cut his career short due to blood clots as well. Are athletes at more of a risk of blood clots than the average person? And what kind of treatment and recovery are available, to them? And is this, a concern for Wemby and the future of his career? He's such a young guy.
Yeah, so it is a weird injury. Most blood clots are actually pretty common, but most of the ones we see either occur after an injury or a surgery when you're not as mobile, you're kind of laid up. Circulation is not as robust as typical. So for someone like him to get a blood clot, you got to wonder if maybe he might have a clotting factor disorder, which can make you more prone, or his is in the upper extremity in his arm. You can have some kind of ways you were born with an extra rib or a rib malposition that kind of kinks one of the blood vessels and makes you more prone to a clot. So ultimately, his long-term kind of risk is going to depend on what they decide was the cause of this. But, just like you see Bosh on the commercials for the blood thinners, Wemby's going to have to go on one too, and he's going to be on it for a while. So, coming back to play on a blood thinner, you're at a lot higher risk of bleeding if you get injured in the whole 9 yards. So it's a pretty big deal.
All right, moving on to Joel Embiid. His saga continues. It seems like he's hurt every other year, and he's got this meniscus replacement procedure that he may reportedly undergo. It involves breaking a bone in the hip to realign the joint and alleviate pressure. To me, to the average person, that sounds like a risky procedure, risky operation. How common is that practice, and can you kind of explain, how it works, I guess?
Yeah, it is a pretty big deal. It's not uncommon. I wouldn't say that a lot of orthopedic surgeons do it, but those of us that do, it's not an uncommon procedure, but almost certainly what he's got is basically just he's developing arthritis on the inner side of his knee. He's had his meniscus trimmed before. He doesn't have a lot of cushion there, and so now he's developing actual arthritis. So what this combination of procedures would do would basically put a meniscus replacement, which is usually a transplant, a cadaver meniscus, to replace his own meniscus. And then the bone cutting procedure is called an osteotomy, which is essentially cutting and realigning the bone to shift some of his weight off the area that's more damaged so that when he runs and walks, more of his weight is shifted onto the good part of the knee. It's good surgery. It can work well, but to come back at an NBA level participation afterward, I would not be putting a lot of money on that.
On to another big man who always seems to be hurt, and that's Karl Anthony Towns. He's been dealing with something called jumper's knee, which I'd never heard of. Apparently, he's been dealing with this for the last couple of months, and he tweaked his right knee in a recent loss to the Celtics. What exactly is jumper's knee, and how serious is that one? Is that something that might be a long-term thing for him?
Yeah, jumper's knee is kind of a generic term that refers to pain in the front of the knee in athletes, particularly who do a lot of running and jumping. It's usually just referring to patellar tendonitis, inflammation or tendonitis in that tendon that runs from your kneecap down to your shin bone. It's not serious in terms of danger. It doesn't really put him at a higher risk of bigger problems down the road. But it is serious in that it can become very sort of chronic and nagging. It can be very hard to get rid of, and there's not really a great surgery for it. So it's a lot of therapy. It's a lot of medication. Sometimes there's injections like PRP or growth factors, and I've got more than a handful of my own patients who deal with it for years, honestly. So it can be quite annoying.
All right, staying with basketball, but moving to the college game. One player that we're all familiar with, Malik Brown, plays at Duke now, suffered what they're calling a dislocated shoulder last week against Virginia. John Shire didn't provide an update, just saying that doctors didn't see anything abnormal as far as the injury goes. So what is the timetable for something like that, a dislocated shoulder? And, again, what kind of goes into the treatment and the recovery for that kind of injury? Should he be ready to go in time for the NCAA tournament, I guess?
Yeah, so almost always when you dislocate your shoulder, you do some damage. Typically, you tear what's called the labrum, which is some cartilage inside your shoulder. So when those guys say they don't see anything abnormal, I'm not sure if they mean he didn't tear it or they don't see anything outside the ordinary tear that you would see. But either way, he's not going to have surgery in the middle of the season. They're going to rehab him, and he'll probably be back playing. I would bet you within a month. He'll be ready for the tournament typically. Question will kind of be whether it continues to bother him or is loose enough that it's a risk of dislocating again, in which time typically you might consider some off-season surgery to fix that.
And it was weird, like the play that it happened on, too. It didn't even seem like it was an unnatural play. It just went to deflect a pass, and it seemed like, his shoulder popped out. Just an odd thing, and obviously we all hope that he's better soon. Lastly, let's jump to baseball. Giancarlo Stanton, often injured, once again is starting another season injured. Says there's no timetable for his return. He's got tendinitis in both elbows. The question came up about why didn't he have surgery in the offseason. He said, I don't know. What do you make of this whole situation? And, how does one go about fixing tendinitis in both elbows?
Right. So it's weird to begin with that he's got it in both arms because, obviously in his position in baseball, just in general, they're doing two different tasks. So the best I can sort of glean from the internet is that it's kind of a tennis elbow type thing, which is tendinitis on the outer sides of your elbow. Comes from a lot of wrist motion and throwing, and probably the way he swings with such force and snaps his wrist maybe has contributed too. One of the reasons he may not have had surgery is because surgery is not that effective for a lot of tendinitis issues. You go in and you kind of clean up the damaged tendon and you sew the good stuff back together, but it's rarely, no pun intended, it's rarely a home run surgery. People who get it done say, yeah, I'm better, but I'm still not perfect. So they're probably trying to get him better again, just like the jumper's knee with therapy, medication, injection kind of thing, rather than jumping into a surgery on him.
If you were, say, a radio host and you were sitting just doing a radio show and your back locked up, what would cause your back muscles to lock up if you were just sitting doing a radio show?
So if I were that radio host, do I have back problems in the past, or
Yes.
is this kind of a new thing?
No, you've got back problems and neck problems.
Gotcha. So, hopefully it's just muscular, and I'd be doing some stretching and some anti-inflammatories and some heating pad. But I would say if it lingers more than, a week or two, or if it's causing any sort of nerve symptoms, numbness, tingling down your legs, any sort of bowel bladder type problems, then you got to be more worried along the lines of like a bulging disc or something, and you might want to get it looked at.
All right, that's good advice. And fortunately, I feel better.
I was just asking.
After
I was
a couple
worried
of
about
days,
you,
I
Steve.
felt better.
I was
but-
just worried about
Yeah,
it.
no, I appreciate
I was just getting
that.
a little expert help.
Dr. Todd, great stuff as always. We love having you on. Thanks for the information. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks. Hope you feel better.
All right, thank you. Dr. Todd Battaglia.
You know what
from
you should do,
SOS.
Steve, is get one of those heating pads that the players wear before.
Yeah, well, then
During
people
the
will say I'm
show.
not taking the show
Yes,
seriously.
you're unprofessional.
Unprofessional. So I'll try to suck it up and get through it.
Can we make that your new nickname? Bulging disc Infante? That's what someone in the chat went.
Got to be careful with that one.
Well, I don't get it.
Google search Charlie Steiner because he had trouble with that one time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Back after this on ESPN Radio.
How are your bowel movements and bladder doing?
Everything's good.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to get a little help.
Thank you.
Join us whenever the hell we want to do a show.
Check your local listings.
How good, Steve? That's a great question. How good are your bowel movements? Like, are you like who's the chick from Friday or from Halloween? An alien. Why can't I think of her name? Not Sigourney Weaver. Not Sigourney Weaver. The other one, who's in the Activia commercials, who's always telling us about her bowel movements. Why can't I think of her name? Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah, she's always telling us about her dumps. When's the last time you bit yourself on a pork chop? Good question.
You know what? We celebrated my birthday on Monday. Kids came over.
Wait, your birthday was Monday?
No, my birthday's Thursday, but it was the only day everybody could do. So the kids came over. We all had we had dinner, and Kim made dinner. And what did she make? She made pork chops.
Nice.
I said, "Don't let Paulie find out."
You survived. I know way too much about Jamie Lee Curtis's bowel movements. I just thought I'd put that out there. Happy birthday, Steve.
Thank you.
I hope Syracuse loses, so we have to take horrible calls on your birthday. My birthday present to you will be the most miserable Orange Nation in the history of Orange Nation.
It really has the potential to be the worst show ever tomorrow.
Oh, it's gonna, it will be brutal.
And
they're not even out of it because they could still win 2 games. It's just
don't we get our birthdays off though at this place?
That's for employees.
Oh, okay.
You're not an employee.
Gotcha.
You're a contractor.
Gotcha. Oh, CJC, ouch. 227, 1945.
Got him. 49, right?
I'm 49, yeah.
You're going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going to be 49. Yeah, I got 1 year left, Kevin. I'm starting my 50th year around the sun. My 50th trip around the sun.
It's miserable. You know what? I always find the year after is the worst. So, like, you turn 31, you're like, Jesus, I'm not even 30. I'm 41. I'm not even 40 anymore. That's the worst.
The hardest one for me, I think, was when my daughter turned 21. I think
you could have a booze with her.
I was, yeah.
That's weird, right?
It's like parents' weekend. We were downtown on like Marshall Street having a drink together, and it was like,
I didn't tell you this story, Steve. Did I tell you this story yesterday? Maybe I'll save this for the year because I'm stupid. I had a scary medical incident. Not last night, but the night before, and it wasn't a scary medical incident. So I'll tell you about it in a second. I peed the bed. No, it was something else.
The minimum wage is increasing 50 cents per hour. That's an additional $2,000 to spend on all the things you need. In 2027, the minimum
Thank you, Mayomo23.
Michael Antonio just coming in hot. I like it.
new minimum wage, putting money directly into the pockets of new
I haven't broached. I haven't used the word broached in a while. What do you want to broach in the next segment? My medical emergency?
Yeah, let's broach that subject.
It's a hat. It's a brooch. A pterodactyl. It's my airplane quote of the day. My medical emergency was not nearly as bad as Robin Quivers. I do look 50, thank you. I'm 52, so I look younger than my age. Thank you. Why do you need your shovel now? It's going to rain tonight. I don't know where everybody, I don't have sources, but where did everybody hear that Boeheim wanted Jerry? Because every person I talked to on the Hill when it was coming down it's going to be red. Yeah. He was the associate head coach.
Right, he was the associate coach. That's not. I was going to say, that's not the Pet Shop Boys.
Steve, I had a scary moment the other day. This is going to be a true Pauly 45 moment.
Okay.
12:45 segment. I'll tell you about the cavalcade of cars in a second, but I thought I was having a medical emergency, not last night, but the night before, and I can't believe I forgot to tell you this yesterday. I have an Apple Watch, and your wife uses an Apple Watch too when she sleeps.
Yes.
Right? For some reason, I put it on really tight before I went to bed, and I fell asleep for like 4 hours, and I woke up, and I could not move my left arm. I thought I was having a stroke.
No.
And I couldn't move my hand. I was freaking out, and then I looked at my watch, and my hand was like blue, so I like undid it, and the mark from my watch was like all the way down to the bone. Like it was embedded.
How did you fall asleep if it was that tight?
I don't know, but I couldn't move my hand, and I was freaking out. I was about to start yelling, "Take me to Kraus." I thought I was having a stroke.
Man. So, like, when I come in here a few minutes before the show and I say, Pauly, how are you today? Like, I don't know, tree fell in my house. Like, I almost died last night. Like, those things.
I didn't almost die. This was me being stupid and wearing my watch too tight.
All right. But, those things should come up instead of you just like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, You can
No,
actually.
I don't want to tell you about my bad. Like, if someone asks you how you're doing, fine is the answer.
No, but we're going to spend the next 2 hours together. I want to know what you're dealing with. You going through something today? Like, I want to know. Like the day that a tree fell on your house. I would have liked to know that before we start the show.
No. I don't want to burden anybody with my problems. I wear them on my shoulders.
Save them for the 45s.
Like an albatross, yes.
Save them for the 45s. Get content out of it. That's how much you care about the show. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was...
How quickly from when you undid the watch did you...
Okay, so it went from I couldn't move it to falling asleep. So does that make sense?
Yes.
So it went from I couldn't move my hand at all to it fell asleep. Like I had the tingles.
How quickly?
Probably about 5 minutes. I was up for a good 30.
5 minutes?
I was up for about 30 minutes waiting for my arm to get back to full function.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say like 30 seconds.
No.
5 minutes?
Yeah. I couldn't move my thumb for most of it. I was trying to make fists. It was terrifying.
That's crazy.
You know, I've never had that before. I was like, make a fist, and it wouldn't make the fist. Like, I was thinking it, and it wasn't happening.
Somewhere around the country tomorrow, they're going to do Today's Business on a radio show, and it's going to be like Dateline, Syracuse, radio show host falls asleep with his watch on too tight.
What if my arm died on my body? Could that happen?
Was it really like your hand was like legitimately a different color?
Yeah, I could not move my hand.
It was like
I got up and went to the bed.
it was a different color?
Yeah, it was. My whole arm was like dead. Like,
Man.
what if that would have been a fun one to explain the next day. I come in with no arm. Oh, it died. I wore my watch too tight.
Man. Well, I'm glad you're okay. I can't believe you forgot to tell me that, but I'm glad you're okay.
That, and it probably wouldn't have happened, as Kevin said, if I had just gotten my original Apple Watch instead of being bougie. And
now, did that happen before or after bowling? Because if it happened before bowling, you could have used that as an excuse why you lost.
No, it was after bowling.
Okay, because you could have said, I'm basically playing with one arm.
Yeah, I'm not explaining to somebody that I'm a 52-year-old adult and don't know how to wear a watch.
That's fair. You
Without
just told
hurting
all of
myself.
Central New York,
I
though.
know, but you don't be, hey.
What if she's listening?
Hey, you want to have dinner? I don't know how to put a watch on like a normal human.
She might be listening right now.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. All right. After the fact, all is well. All right, how about the cavalcade of cars?
It is happening.
Not at the Horticulture Building.
And it's brought to you by the Syracuse Nationals. It's at the old Center of Progress building. It's an indoor car show, Steve. You know what that means?
It's indoors.
Yes, you won't be outdoors in the cold. There's a stripe-tacular, a pinup contest, old school room. I wonder if the old school room has old school hip-hop playing, because I go to that.
Yeah, me too.
Little Eric B, Run DMC. Live music, vendors, a swap meet, and more. Space inside the buildings are very limited. The event is for 200 vehicles, so fill out your application now at cavalcadeofcarscny.com. We'll see you there.
You could get away with an outdoor car show today. It's nice. I took a walk before the show started. Walked around Armory Square. Just got the blood pumping a little bit.
This one's indoors, though.
Yeah, I'm saying.
You can have your own cavalcade of cars outdoors.
Today would be a good day for it. It's nice out. After all this cold weather we've been having, today is nice.
Yeah, I got away with not once shoveling my driveway in the past 2 weeks.
The snow's melting. The sun is out.
That tree on my deck looks much nicer now with no snow covering it.
It's still there, I take it? The tree is still there? You're not paying attention to me. You're reading. The tree is still there?
I got a question that's more... Yeah, the tree is going to be there till spring.
Okay.
What do you say to fans, Paulie, that want to donate money but have a real problem with how it's ran and coached? Okay, don't do it. But if the coach is back and he doesn't succeed with the NIL, it's partially on that group of the fan base, right?
Yeah, I mean, they could get what they wanted, which is if you don't donate and they suffer,
then you'll get your coach fired. If that's what you want,
and then to each his own, right? Like you can't make anybody donate, and obviously some people can't afford to donate, but it is going to be a collective thing, right? This, what were you saying?
You're good with the old sayings. What's the old spiting your face saying? It's blah 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 to spite your face. Ripping off your nose or something like that.
Yeah.
I wish I was 90 because my mom used to say it.
Cutting off your nose. Cutting off your nose to spite your face.
That's what you're doing, fan base, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face if you want the team to fail because you don't want to donate to NIL. Thank you. Do you think when they first said that, they thought that was what it would be used for?
No.
An NIL deal?
I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Okay.
Certainly not 100 years ago. But here we are. All right. With that, we've made it to the top of the hour. And coming up in hour number 2, we've got back-to-back guests to talk SU basketball and NC State basketball. Todd Thomas joins us on the other side. Cory Smith from PackPride. He's the editor of PackPride. We've had him on the show before. He will return to preview tonight's game between the Orange and the Wolfpack. We'll get to today's business. We'll get to your phone calls. It's all on the way. Hour number 2 starts next on ESPN Radio.
Okay. Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, they're not giving it to any clown. But they also have a product, right? They're saying no to the product. Syracuse has a good product, and if you want it to be good, you buy it, right? Because it doesn't matter who the coach is. If you bring in good players, you're going to be fine. Michael Antonio, college, that's not how it is anymore. NIL is running the ship, so fans are responsible. Yeah, so if the university said, hey, we're bringing the coach back next year, and you don't like the university enough to donate money to even help the coach, then yeah, it's on the fans. Yes, teams will win if they have good players. It really doesn't, guys, because the best players are going to go where the money is, not where the coach is. Do you think Kadari Richmond really gives a crap he's playing for Rick Pitino? How do you know the rich donors aren't ponying it up, and then it's the other people that aren't, like the nickel and dimers? You really... Delamacuse, he did coach an Olympic team once, didn't he? Red was the head coach of the international team. Yeah. Fran Brown never had a head coaching job either. Jim Boeheim never had a head coaching job. Paul Pasqualoni never had a head coaching job. Yeah, so you can't say that no head coaching experience is a problem. The wall of fame of donors. Go look at the building names. Everybody laughed at the New York's college team thing when Gross tried to do that, and now they should have stuck with it. Everybody's like, oh, look at this idiot. Okay, he was the head coach of Connecticut. Sorry. A lower level donor, you want like a wall of lower level donors? Like an employee of the month at Burger King? Let's acknowledge Bill in row 3 in section 311 for his $5.99 donation. Thank you, Bill. Stand up and get your applause. Bill. If Syracuse had more money, he would not have gone to play for Rick Pitino, I promise you. Hey, everybody. Derek Coleman's at the game, but we're going to put the camera on Section 252. And Steve, who donated $17.99 towards NIL this year. Steve.
You say that, I will say, I've heard some people say they didn't receive, like, their membership level rewards from
Well, that's crappy.
Collective. So, that is a tough shake.
Let's make lots of money, Steve. This song's called Opportunities, and that basically describes college basketball now. I'm not fighting. I'm just arguing with the chat that someone said if I'm going to donate like $17.99, they need to like make a wall of fame of donors for the low-level people. And I just saw a segment every game where they just put the camera on the donor and everybody chants their names. Bill. If we turn your attention to Bill in section 475, that's not even a section, but 475, Bill gave $2 to NIL. He gave a deuce for the Cuse. Bill. The whole crowd chants for him. I like that.
If he's in section 475, he doesn't have very good seats.
But giving a deuce for come on, let's make that a thing. Everybody gives $2. And every time they do that, every time they give a deuce to the Cuse, Mike Veely can't say it at a game.
All right, with that, we bring on Atan Thomas to talk Cuse men's basketball. Atan, how you doing?
Y'all having fun over there.
Yeah. We're making our own good time. Some fans, I think, are uncomfortable with us calling this a big game tonight. You're aware of the standings and what this game could mean, or, as it pertains to the ACC tournament. You win this game, you're probably going. You lose this game, and then you're certainly sweating it out here down the stretch. Do you look at tonight as a big game?
Yeah, it's a big game. I mean, let's be honest. This has been a difficult season this year, but we want to make the ACC tournament. That is something that we want to do. So not making the ACC tournament would be very bad. So yes, this is a very big game. It's kind of the battle of the bottom three of the ACC. So, like you said, if we lose this game, we're probably not going to go. If we win this game, our chances are still alive. So yes, this is a huge game. Now, I mean, nobody wants to be in this position that we're in, but this is the position that we're in. So yes, it's a big game.
I led off the show by saying this is a terrible position for Syracuse basketball to be in, but they can never be in this position again. Do you agree with that statement?
Of course.
Like you're Syracuse.
Nobody wants us to be competing or, hoping to make the ACC tournament. No, we don't want to be in this position ever again. This is a terrible position to be in, but this is where we are. So what do people want? Them to just give up? Just to quit? Just to say, all right, we don't want to play anymore. Let's just mail it in. No, nobody wants to do that. And the coaches have been reiterating, the players have been reiterating that we're not going to quit. There is no quit in us. Coach Griff, he had a great interview where he said no. I think he was responding to a fan that was maybe said something like that, and he was like, no, we're not. That's not even the notion of us quitting is a possibility. So no, nobody wants that. You want guys to keep fighting, and that's what they're doing.
The comment, the topic came up earlier in the show about, maybe some fans have turned the page on this season and they don't really care about what happens tonight or the rest of the way, that, it's been a failure of a season no matter what, and they're already looking ahead at next year. And the topic came up that the players don't care as much either, or might not care as much either, because they're getting paid now. What do you think about that? And you kind of alluded to it right there based on what you're hearing. Do you think NIL will make, and I'm not saying like Syracuse in general, but do you think that NIL will make college basketball players or college football players that are in a similar situation like this where the season didn't go the way that they wanted to? Do you think it will make them care less about the wins and losses and whether they go to a certain postseason tournament or make a certain playoff or that kind of thing?
If the players have shown any type of a hint that they do not care, then you can ask those questions. But they haven't done that. So it's kind of a moot point. You know what I mean? The players have every single game, every single post game, win or lose, they're into it. They hurt when they lose. You know what I mean? And coaches are upset when we lose. And that's the general atmosphere. Nobody is just mailing it in. Now there are ways where you can very easily see if they're not interested anymore. But nobody can accuse any of our players of feeling that way or expressing it or even exhibiting it in any way. So no, I would reject that notion completely.
I was in the locker room after the last game, the Pitt game, and it was downtrodden. It was a bunch of guys that you could tell cared because it looked like Syracuse locker rooms after NCAA tournament losses. There was crying. There was people upset. Could a loss like that cause the team to completely go in the tank after, you finally think you clicked and it completely goes off the rails?
So players don't have the same mentality that fans have. So we have to stop equating the two. Fans have been ready to do away with this team for a long time. Fans are saying that, okay, this is a wash of a season. Let's just look towards next year, like everything that you said before, right? The players haven't said that. The players haven't exhibited, so we can't keep making that, comparison. They don't compare. The players are still into it. Yes, every loss hurts. Doesn't mean you're just going to give up and quit for the whole season because you had a tough loss. Tough loss is a part of the game. But no, they want to win and they want to keep playing, and that's what they've repeated, over and over again.
Do you think this team has improved? Are you seeing signs of improvement a ton? And if so, what areas have you seen maybe some growth in? And I know it's probably hard because the roster has changed, the starting lineup's changed so much this year. But are you seeing growth in certain areas?
Well, it's hard to really quantify growth when you're losing. It really is. Like I'll say that Chris Bell had a good game and he shot the ball well and he hit 7 threes and everything like that. But we lost the game. So it's kind of hard. I'll say that, Lampkin had 18, 19 rebounds and, he played well the whole time and he was battling and, he played an unbelievable amount of minutes and everything like that, but we lost the game. So it's hard to really quantify that. You know what I mean? It's a tough question.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That brings up another point that we were talking about yesterday about, the biggest priority in the offseason. We were talking about, the need of a point guard, and we were talking about the need for rim protection. You obviously could speak to the latter, right? I mean, rim protection was a big part of your job and what you brought to the team. This particular squad obviously does not have that. Can you speak to that, Atan, how important it is to have that last line of defense and how that can kind of be a game changer for teams, why it's so important and why this team lacks it and misses it?
Well, we do have somebody that's 7'3", 7'4" on the roster that could be a rim protector. But I mean, it is tough and the game is different. So, you have more shooters now. So it's kind of hard to really sit in the 2-3 zone. You even saw with Coach Boeheim kind of changing the zone and shifting it a little bit there in the latter years, where they would have the center run out to the corner. I wasn't really a huge fan of that, but they would have Jesse running out in the corner on one side, challenging the three, because you have more guys that can shoot the three. But yeah, I do think having a rim protector is of the utmost. It's really important because when the guards. I'm not going to say don't do their job, but when the defensive assignment is missed, I'll say it that way, and a player does get by a guard, the last line of defense is the big man, is the rim protector. And, being able to rely on somebody that can protect the rim is really invaluable. So I would definitely say the rim protectors are still very important in the game.
Todd, someone is calling me out for something I just said in a question.
Uh-oh.
And I want to ask you about it as a former college player.
Okay.
There were players that were emotional after that Pitt loss.
Okay.
Can you speak to maybe a loss where this season has to wear on a 20-year-old kid, and can you recall times where you got emotional after losses, or even in the pros where like this is your life and you're putting all your effort into it. It's just not working.
Of course. Every player has had that. I mean, there's times where different teammates have almost wanted to go to blows because they're so upset after a loss, and that emotions are high. This is an emotional game. But I don't understand the question. So is the issue with what you...
Somebody would be so emotional. Like Judah, I'm not speaking of school now. Judah Mintz used to cry out after almost every loss. He hated losing. Right. Like, are you shocked by a statement that the players were that upset by losing, especially being up 16?
No, not at all. You know what I mean? There's people don't understand that as a player, you want to win and you give your all, and you are going to be emotional at times. That's what happens. So the caller or the person that is referring online, he's shocked that the players did have that reaction. That's what you're saying. Oh, okay, no. Then he hasn't seen
that there's tears in the locker room.
No. That happens all the time. I mean, players are getting upset and everything like that because they put their all into it. That's normal. You know what I mean? That happens.
And that goes back to your point, Paulie, about and your point, Atan, about players caring, right?
Yeah.
If they didn't care, they wouldn't be crying, right?
This has got to. You think as a fan that this season's weighing on you? Imagine being the ones that are being blamed for what's happening at Syracuse University right now.
But why? But why is there this question that the players? Because I hear it keep coming up, but have they seen any hint of the players not caring or not, fighting hard or wanting to mail it in? Why does that keep coming up?
Oh, I think it's more of people are just searching for answers.
Yeah,
like it's come down to like people think it's the way they warm up. They don't shoot. They're missing foul shots because they don't shoot them during warm-ups. I think everybody's just searching for answers now. So the fan base isn't used to this.
Okay, but the warming up. Do y'all remember how DC used to warm up? Does anybody remember how Derek Kilman used to warm up before the games? Just think about that. He would be chilling. He would be sitting on the thing, his shoes untied, kicking his feet, laughing, and then go out there and just kill everybody. People, when you lose, people point at every single thing. You know what I mean? It's not none of that. I understand the frustration, but don't overanalyze stuff. You know what I mean? That's just guys. I understand it though. It's a tough season, and like you said in the beginning of this, we don't want to be in this position ever again, where we're competing to be in the ACC tournament. We don't want to be in this position. So I do understand the fans' frustration. I will always say that.
There is a difference, though, right, between effort and pride, right? Is there a point where you got to have some pride in your game and play defense? So this team has struggled on defense, and you can get better at defense during the year.
Yeah, I hear you, but sometimes you have the rotation and the other team just knocks down the shots. Like I hear what you say. I hear what you're saying. You know what I mean? Pride on defense, moving your feet, getting there earlier. If it takes a step earlier, then getting there that step earlier. Not letting your man drive past you. You know what I mean? I understand all of that, but I don't think it's because they don't care. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's the reason.
Yeah, but like as a player, could you at not one point say this is never happening to me again, and it will happen again, but just dig in, like play 40 minutes.
I hear you, but that's the plan. I mean, I'm sure their plan going into the game is not to like let it happen. You know what I mean? That's what they're trying to do. I'm sure they're not saying, okay, we're gonna go into this game and let them shoot some open threes and just, you know what I mean, or out rebound us or anything like that. That's not the game plan. That's not what the coaches are telling them to do. That's not what they're saying to each other. You know what I mean? Like I don't like the narrative that they don't care, or that they've mailed it in. And I hear it keep coming up and I see it in comment sections and I'm like, no, y'all fans might feel that way, but that is not how the players feel. And they have said it over and over again that they're not giving up. And the coaches have said that and the players have said that. That is not how they're feeling.
I'm with you, Atan. I think you got to be careful when you question somebody's effort, right? I mean, you could question their execution. And I think that's where it comes from too. Like we're seeing in our chat right now, like, people see like 25-0 start against Stanford or giving up 90+ points to last place Miami. And they say, well, how can that happen? Like if they're trying, how can that happen? Effort and execution are different, to your point, Tom, because you got to be careful when you're calling out somebody. I mean, they as we said, they've worked very hard to get to this point. They obviously care. You could question their execution, but to your point, I don't know that you could question their effort right now.
Right, and I'm glad that Coach Autry corrected himself after the Miami game, Because at the Miami game, I think it was a little bit of emotions boiling over. And he said, we had no effort. We had no defense. We had no everything. Like, he was frustrated. And then afterwards, he said, okay, I think it was the next day or two. He might even come on here and said that. He's like, all right. Yeah, he said, okay, the guys are trying. Yes, they are making effort. That's not quite what I had meant to say. And, it's a frustrating season. That's what it is. I understand the frustration. You know what I mean? It's a frustrating season. So, yeah, we don't want to be in this position again.
All right, Atan, great stuff. Great conversation as always. Enjoy the game tonight, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, Atan Thomas joining us here on the show. With that, we'll hit a timeout. We'll continue the basketball talk on the other side. We'll get the opposing team's view. Cory Smith, editor from PackPride, joins us next to tell us about the Wolfpack. Back after this on ESPN Radio. Yeah, San Diego Cuse, I 100% agree with your statement about the basketball IQ on this team is poor. I don't know that I can remember a team where their basketball IQ has been just this bad. And, it's things that, they should have learned a long time ago. I don't put that on this coaching staff. I just think some of these players just are not high when it comes to basketball.
I wouldn't say Red Seat is hot now, but going into next year, he'll be if that was next year, he was 6 out of 17 hottest seats, he's not going anywhere. His seat will be very hot to start the offseason. Your take made me want to cry, CJC. Players cry a lot. You'd be shocked. Because it's all they do, and it's all they've done for their whole lives is put all their effort into it.
Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer lets you easily compare direct rates from different insurance companies, so you can be confident you're getting the right one.
There is one player who looks like doesn't give a fuck after every game. But I want to see.
It just happened to not come in a box or include a remote.
I don't know if you can get
Finally managed to turn it on. All displayed was the menu of Grumpy's Tacos. So use Progressive's Auto Quote Explorer and be confident you're getting insurance that's right for you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
The difference between good and great. You'll find that in the details. Lexus continues to impress with the all-new 2025 Lexus ES 300H four-wheel drive, and you can find it at Verdict Lexus in Cicero. First, you'll notice its striking style with dynamic stance and sleek coupe-like silhouette. Once inside, experience technology not just first class, but second in nature. This model boasts instantaneous acceleration, lasting fuel economy. In fact, the most fuel-efficient Lexus sedan.
CJC, do you, about the crying, I realize you probably have never been in a locker room after a team gets bounced from the NCAA tournament, but do you understand why guys would be crying in those situations? Season over, career over, that kind of thing? Or do you think guys shouldn't be crying after those kinds of games either?
Adam Morrison's a loser.
Because I tell you what, those locker rooms are some of the most emotional things that I've ever witnessed.
Oh, no, I believe it. I mean,
Scoop's last year, Scoop was he was inconsolable, whatever that word is. He was sobbing as we were trying to talk to him.
Yeah.
Sobbing. Scoop.
Jerry, after the Vermont game, was a mess.
Yeah.
Jerry, after that DePaul game, that was a regular season game, was a mess.
All right, so he says he understands NCAA tournament. Yeah, I mean,
Jerry, after the DePaul game, was a mess. I got kicked out of the locker room for that one.
that's valid, Kev. I would cry, too. I think it's also, when you feel like your goals are gone, it's geez, we just worked.
Have you ever been in a situation like that at work? I've cried at work. You could get to you're up 16, and you finally think you turned it around, and the whole you just shit the bed, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I always feel bad for teams the teams that lose in the championship game. I would cry because it's It is so hard to make it here, and now I have to wait an entire year to figure out if we can even get back to this point.
I would think losing like this would make me cry too. Like if I was on a team, like you don't think they see what the fans are saying about them and everything, and you're just every game you're trying your best and you can't win, and you're just like we dread coming in doing this show. It's got to be quadruple, if not 10 times worse for a player.
Look at Super Cat coming in with the science. Oh boy,
Super Cat.
Super Cat. You want to do an SOS house call, Super Cat?
No, that's a fair point.
No, I wasn't making fun of him. Like, I actually appreciate what he's saying.
When's the last time you cried, Steve? Besides when you hurt your back and everybody watched you.
I cried. I mean, it wasn't like hard crying, but I had tears in my eyes on Monday when I read the card from my daughter and son. They wrote a little note in, and it made me choke up.
Wuss.
Yeah.
Domino dancing. The losses are piling up like dominoes. Steven, I've kind of made a reference to the basketball season in every Pet Shop voice.
Yes, you have. You have. You've been calling me Steven more and more lately.
I like it. It's kind of a formal name.
You're the only one that does that.
I'm shocked at how many people don't think athletes get emotional after games.
Yeah.
Like losing
hurts.
Yes. Like I hear you guys call in and complain about this team and be super angry, and then you're shocked that a player is?
Yeah.
They're the one actually doing all the work.
Yeah, and it obviously means something to them.
And if you don't think that last Pitt game was a punch in the gut, like you're up 16, you're finally doing everything right, your shots are falling, and then you lose, that had to be the worst thing that could happen at your job just happened.
I don't know if you watched any basketball last night, but Georgia Tech played at Pittsburgh, and it was almost a carbon copy of the Syracuse game. They got off to a big lead. Pittsburgh came back in the second half. Pittsburgh actually took the lead late. The difference is Georgia Tech overcame that and won the game. But the game itself was it played out almost exactly the way the Syracuse game did. But, to your point, SU did everything they needed to do for the first half. It all fell apart in the second half, and they lost. And they're in a situation now where they really need to win this game tonight against NC State. As we bring on Cory Smith, editor of PackPride, to preview this game from an NC State perspective. Cory, we appreciate you joining us. And it's a situation where Syracuse has been struggling, obviously. It seems like NC State is playing its best basketball of the season. Is that fair to say? They've won 2 or 3. I know it's BC, but just picked up a big win over Wake Forest. Would you agree this team's playing its best basketball right now?
Yeah, I mean, at least the most consistent basketball from start to finish. I mean, you guys talked about it, the fact that there's been multiple area games where Syracuse has been good enough to be able to win games in the first half and then struggle late in the second half. That's what NC State did early on in the season. You think back to those Virginia Tech games. They win those. We're not talking about how important this game is. We're talking about NC State trying to battle for seeding as opposed to trying to battle to get into the ACC tournament. So, yeah, they're playing much better basketball right now. The Boston College win didn't seem like that big of a deal, but Boston College has won 2 straight since then to keep pace in the ACC tournament standings or try to get into the ACC tournament, essentially. And NC State this past weekend beating a Wake Forest team that was, just as hungry as NC State. That Wake Forest team is battling to get into the NCAA tournament and still being kind of on the outside looking in now at this point. So they needed that win to keep pace in the ACC, and then you get it over an in-state team that's as hungry as they are. That's a huge confidence boost for this team, especially heading into a Syracuse game where they desperately need this win.
How is this year sitting with the NC State fan base? It hasn't been pretty up here, but NC State coming off the Final Four. How is this year sitting with the fan base?
Not well. You're coming off of a season where, look, it wasn't a great overall season last year when you look at the actual regular season, but, this is a team that won 9 straight to win an ACC championship and a Final Four last year. So the expectations coming into this year were, not necessarily to do that again, because that's not the expectation year in and year out for NC State, but to at least build upon that, be an NCAA tournament team, get to, the top half of the ACC at the very least. For this team to be right now, 16th in the ACC and battling to get into the ACC tournament, being potentially the first team ever, which, obviously it hadn't happened in the past. You weren't cut from the ACC tournament, but being the first team ever to win an ACC championship the year prior and not even go to it the next year, that would be extremely humbling for NC State and quite frankly, embarrassing. And I think that's kind of where the NC State fan base is heading into these last 4 games, win or lose. It's a frustrating season, but at least being able to save face a little bit by trying to make it to the ACC tournament would be massive.
Sounds very
just
familiar.
Going to say that, and there's a lot of talk up here, Corey, about is Adrian Autry on the hot seat and how hot is his seat and his future here. I know Kevin Keatts. It sounds crazy, right? He's coming off of a Final Four, but going into that postseason last year, he was on the hot seat, and then they go on that run through the ACC tournament and then the NCAA. What is his job security like down there in Raleigh?
Yeah, you expected the honeymoon phase to be a little bit longer than 1 year, right? But when you only win 4 games so far in ACC play, and you needed wins over Boston College and Notre Dame, 2 teams that are not very good in ACC play, to be able to get there, it's not a great look. I don't know exactly how hot the seat is right now, because there are still some that say, well, the contract is for 5 additional years. He built up enough goodwill last year by winning an ACC championship, something that hadn't been done in 37 years, going to the Final Four, something that hadn't been done in 41 years for NC State. So those things should be able to, give you a little bit of a grace period, but the fact that there could potentially be 20 plus losses, and that might be, the second time that that's happened in the last 4 years, that's kind of what's creeping up against Kevin Keatts right now is, yes, you did all the right things at the end of last season, but the consistent success still hasn't been there. And this year is yet another example of the fact that it just hasn't been there for Kevin Keatts. Win, lose, or draw here. The fact that for NC State to not be at least in the top half of the ACC after what happened last year, it's just kind of another indictment on Kevin Keatts and what he's built as a program.
What's been the biggest reason for that then, Corey? Because you pointed out early on in this interview about the losing a lot of close games. What's the reason, I guess, big picture for the record? Is it a poorly constructed roster? Did they strike out in the portal? Has it been injuries? What's the biggest reason in your mind for why this season went south?
Yeah, it's been a combination of several things. First of all, not that NC State fans want to talk about this, but Mike James, the kid that came over from Louisville, the expectation was for him to be kind of the centerpiece of this offense, be that guy at the 3 for you that's a physical guard, somebody that can rebound the basketball well and shoot from outside, and he hasn't played a single game all season long. He's been out the entire season with a knee injury that was scoped before the season started, and he hasn't been able to contribute at all. Also, the fact that there was some missed evaluations in the transfer portal. Brandon Huntley-Hatfield that came over from Louisville hasn't been what they expected. Ben Middlebrooks, despite looking good early on in the season, hasn't been great during ACC play, actually shooting less than 40% on the season or in ACC play. And as a big man, that's not what you need. You need at least consistent scoring down low and a guy that can rebound the basketball for you, and you've gotten next to nothing out of that. And then, the third thing here, the fact that, for NC State and for Kevin Keatts, part of the indictment on him is the fact that there's been players that have shown you that they're good enough to be able to compete and try to get wins for you. A Trey Parker, who's a true freshman, a Paul McNeil, who's a true freshman, and those two guys really haven't gotten consistent minutes on the court. Trey Parker showed out really well against Duke and Stanford, but hasn't played much in recent games. And then, Paul McNeil, a guy that everybody's been crying for the entire season, like, hey, this guy needs to be out there on the court for you. Well, he just finally got his first start this past game and showed out 24 points against Wake Forest, and had the best performance of basically any player all season, I would argue, in a critical situation. And now it's like, all right, well, where's this guy been all year? And I think that's part of the question marks for Kevin Keatts is that personnel, the way that he's, kind of rotated guys in and out. It hasn't been consistent enough, and you haven't been able to see what you have from some of the younger players as well.
Where does NC State fall when we talk about this? Where does NC State fall when you come to roster building in the NIL department? Because Syracuse is, we don't know if it's true or not, but the excuse is that they built a bad roster with NIL. How is NC State situated amongst ACC schools?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers aren't exact, so we don't know exactly what everything looks like. But, as far as roster construction, I think part of the frustration for Kevin Keatts in this administration was the fact that, you needed more NIL this past offseason. You got an ACC championship. You got to the Final Four. There was some hope that, all right, the same people that wanted Kevin Keatts out would now invest in NIL and get you to that point. Well, it was about 25% growth, but last year's roster, was built on less than $2 million. And so 25% growth was not that significant when it comes to needing to go out and get, 10 plus players on the roster. So as far as where they rank in the ACC, I would probably put them, in the back half of the ACC, even still after what they did last year. So, part of the frustration for NC State is the fact that you weren't able to, build upon what you had last year. And I think when you look at where they are in terms of the NIL landscape for the ACC, even, it's not nearly enough to be able to put together what Kevin Keatts wanted. They missed out on some really big prospects. The two of their top prospects ended up going to Xavier and Utah, and you ended up losing out to those programs when it comes to NIL, and that should be an eye opener. But instead everybody's kind of going, well, they weren't able to do what they needed to do on the court. Well, they did, and then you didn't actually end up backing them.
We look at NC State's road record. They have not won a true road game all year, but you look deeper and 3-point loss at Virginia, 3-point loss at Virginia Tech, 1-point loss at Stanford. They gave Duke at Cameron one of their toughest games all season in conference. So with all that being said, Cory, as you look at this matchup tonight on the road inside the Dome, lay it out for us from an NC State perspective, how the Wolfpack comes out with a win.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for them is to be able to come out the same way they did in the first half of the last few home games. Boston College, you go back to that one, they started off with, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I want to say it was like 12 or 13-0 run to start that one. The same thing against Wake Forest this past weekend. They started off with an 11-0 run before Wake Forest got back into it. The biggest thing is going to be finishing the game, though. I talked about it earlier. Virginia Tech, you bring up those two games. They had double-digit leads in the second half. I mean, I believe it was 13 points against Virginia, like 15 points against Virginia Tech, and they allowed both of those teams to come back and win those games. So for NC State, it's about finishing this game. It's about, finding ways to close out the game, which is exactly what they did against Wake Forest. Wake Forest came back in that game, actually took a lead by 5 points midway through that one. And I mentioned him earlier, Paul McNeil comes in, he makes some clutch plays, saving a ball from going out of bounds that ends up leading to a big three that sparked a run. Then he hits a three-pointer late, hits some free throws late to be able to put that game away. So you have to make winning plays at the end of the game to be able to close things out. And that's something that NC State has struggled with on the road. We'll see if that momentum from Saturday can carry over. And that's exactly what they need to do against Syracuse tonight.
All right, a really big game for both of these programs. ACC tournament spot seems to be on the line for the winners. So you got a final comment, Paulie, now that you...
Well, I'm looking at the chat, and someone in the chat does not get what happened in NIL in the past two seasons.
Yeah.
Last year's NC State team would have cost way more than the $2 million that they had this year, right? If you wanted to keep those players, NIL exploded this offseason, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's not rocket ship science.
Well, and
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say part of it for NC State last year was you built that roster based off of guys that were coming back from the previous season. DJ Burns was your highest paid player. He came over from Winthrop previously. You look at a guy like DJ Horn came in that was an in-state guy from Raleigh, from the area. So some of these guys took, I guess you could call them sweetheart deals, hometown deals, basically, to stay with NC State. You didn't really get that as much this offseason. And so they went out and they tried to get guys that they tried to basically, swing above their weight class and try to go get guys that you think could come in and lift the ceiling of the program, or at least the floor of the program. And they missed on several of those guys because they didn't get the NIL backing. So yeah, it's a weird situation, but it all leads to tonight, where both these teams are competing to try to get to the ACC tournament. I believe the winner tonight gets an over 80% chance to make it. At that point, if you lose tonight, it's a massive swing, because I take that back. Actually, I think if you lose tonight, you have an 80% chance to miss it. If you win tonight, both teams, I think for NC State, you have about a 25% chance of making it. For Syracuse, it'd be an over 40% chance of making it if you win this game tonight.
Yeah, it's a big one for both these teams, no doubt about it. Cory, we really do appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on. We look forward to chatting with you again when NC State rolls around.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, Cory Smith, editor for PackPride, and with that, we'll hit a timeout. We'll get to today's business on the other side. Back after this on ESPN Radio.
I hate when they use whipped cream instead of cold foam, Steve. They think I'm stupid.
Sponsored by Pawn Pro on Erie Boulevard East in Syracuse, with your favorite local sports guys, Brian and Paulie. Okay, guys, here's your question. What's the value of this item? You can't go over the value. A 1956 Topps Mickey Mantle card, graded PSA 6.
PSA 6? That actually seems high for a mantle. I think they're mostly 2s and 1s, so I'll go $10,000. $1.
The 1956 Mickey Mantle card most recently sold for $3,169.
Sorry, LA Orange.
Hopefully they played during our show. What? The women's basketball game. Hopefully the women's basketball game next week all happened during our show. Brian Higgins always gets that break. We need that break where games happen during our show. What players would take a hometown deal to be mentioned by, what the fuck is it? Oh, I think it happened already. They got JJ that way. I think they probably got that with Red, too, because Red was his main recruiter, and then with Chance Westry, and then he just hasn't been healthy. What do I think of a Padres-Yankees World Series? I don't think it's happening. Neither one of them. JJ could have gone anywhere he wanted. He was the number one. Wasn't he like one of the top 5 people in the portal that year? Do you pay attention to life? Or do you just live in your own stupid bubble? My God, you're insufferable. Gaber, I'm starting to think you're either a troll or really one of the dumbest people on earth. I'm sorry I have to speak that way. Yes, I'm saying JJ could go anywhere. Did I speak French? Am I stuttering? JJ would probably go anywhere. Some people may not need him, but anybody that needs a 2 would have taken JJ. Amen. I rest my case. He could have gone anywhere, guys. He was literally one of the... I can't do this anymore. I want the promos to run. I don't want to do this show anymore. I screwed up. The promo's still running. I can't do this anymore, Steve. I can't have this chat in my life. I can't do this any longer. People are idiots, and I don't mean to say it like that, but there's no way around it that people are idiots. Am I wrong in saying that J.J. Starling was one of the top 5 players in the portal when Syracuse got him?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong in saying that. Yeah.
And he got him.
This was a couple years ago. Yes,
yeah.
Right.
And he could have gone anywhere he wanted, basically. Unless somebody else had a better player than him, which wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
And he could probably go anywhere he wants next year.
I would agree with that.
It's not a hot take. Like, that is not a hot take. The kid is averaging almost 20 points a game. He was a McDonald's All-American. I don't get it. It's the same idiot who said, what was the cost of NC State's Final Four team? Who didn't pay attention to the price explosion in players in the offseason. Kadari Richmond didn't cost $1 million last year for Seton Hall. That's why he was there. If he could have gotten $1 million, he would have gone somewhere else.
Yes.
Prices exploded this year.
I think we saw that. Right.
Oh, my God. The guy who works for NC State, the NC State guy, said they had $2.5 million.
Cory Smith, yes.
He probably couldn't have afforded that Final Four team going into this year. It's not hard to figure out. Jordan! How are you, buddy?
It was better like 30 seconds ago.
Why?
Yeah, just, a lot of...
You don't like it when Dad yells?
Yeah, it's just,
Makes him nervous.
Not even, just kind of kills the vibe.
Screw the vibe! I'm sick of the vibe. I don't need a vibe. I need everybody to stop being idiots.
I think his Apple Watch is too tight again.
Take your vibe and shove it.
I wish.
All right. Time for today's business.
I truly sound like I'm sick of. I am. I don't get it. It's just stupidity.
It's draining. The season has been draining on everyone.
I'm mad too. You know
what are you mad about? Let's hear it. Yell.
Well, first
Let
of
it
all,
out.
I'm not mad that Grossman St. Amour CPAs has been helping people in Syracuse handle their finances for years and years. And I also wouldn't be mad if I were to go to gsacpas.com and see what they have to offer. People on social media are like...
idiots?
Yeah, like nobody's capable of watching a video clip, but nobody's even capable of like reading past like the first line. Like I posted the Tim calling earlier saying that fans shouldn't have a say if they don't donate. And like some guys, like, every time I see these two guys talk, they're saying something stupid. It's like, dog, like, read more than 7 words or listen to the clip. Like, help me out. Help me help you.
You know what I'm starting to think? If someone thinks I'm stupid, they're stupid. I know it for a fact now because I'm the smartest guy on earth. It apparently isn't that tough to be.
Stupid?
No. Smart.
Oh, smart.
Because I see the dummies.
For what it's worth, by the way, as of March 29th, 2023, J.J. Starling was on 3's third-ranked player in the transfer portal.
Yeah, okay.
So, well,
I think anybody would have taken the third best player out of the transfer portal. Anybody. Anybody.
I would have.
Agreed.
But Red can't recruit out of the portal. Stinks at it.
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm just letting him go.
No, me too. You think you have to be in here for 2 hours. I don't have to be in here to hear this. I could just be out there plugging away.
Now it's Red's fault that he's got the talent and can't win it from the same dopes.
Today's business, Jordan.
I'm just going to skip through the SU stuff to hope that, it gets Paulie off the topic. But I will just pass along that women's lacrosse just lost to Northwestern. So men's lacrosse has lost 2 games in a row. Women's lacrosse has lost 2 games in a row. We were hoping lacrosse would help us out.
They all suck!
Did you see the post-game press conference, by the way, with Kayla?
I did not. I believe it was going on during the 315 with Brian Higgins.
Gotcha. So Olivia Adamson did not play again. She was in street clothes, second straight game. Kayla was asked afterwards about Olivia Adamson, and all she said was, she's not available. That's all she said. And I reached out to an SU spokesperson last night to try to get some clarity because no injury has been mentioned. There's just a lot of mystery about why she hasn't been out there, and I didn't get a response. So take it for what you will, but Olivia Adamson, who is arguably their best player, right now second leading goal scorer because she hasn't played the last 2 games. She's behind Emma Ward, but arguably their best player, has not played the last 2 games. She was there. She was in street clothes. She was with the team on the sidelines. But did not play, and no explanation has been given publicly. So
yeah, that's tough because going into the season, it was like there's a lot of new pieces, but Emma Ward, Olivia Adamson are 2 of your main consistencies. Sure, we'll rock with it. And having one of them gone is pretty tough, especially when the schedule stepped up. And yeah, it's weird that you'd have a road game and you travel to it and not play if you're not injured. Which we don't know. Maybe she is.
We don't know.
But
right. We don't know.
Be on the forefront of things you would report.
Yeah, I would say that the way she answered the question left it open for people to speculate. And
this town loves a good speculation,
right? So we shall see what ends up transpiring from that situation. But we'll continue to look into it. We don't have a lot of answers right now, but yes, tough loss. They've now lost to the number 2 ranked team, number 3 ranked team in the country. They do play 1 and 4 coming up in April, so they'll have other opportunities. I mean, that's how tough their schedule is. But tough loss yesterday for the ladies. They were in it until the very end. It was 10-8 until last 2 minutes. They pulled the goalie. Northwestern got a couple of empty netters and won 12-8. But
you get mad at officiating. By the way, there was a play where Syracuse shot the ball, or Northwestern shot the ball. Ball hits post, rolls out a goal. Syracuse starts fast break down the other end, starts in transition, and then Northwestern challenges, and it stops the play dead in its tracks. And it's like, you had 10, 15 seconds to challenge. Why are they allowed to just stop the game? Like, you gotta have some sort of time for, or let the play run and then next dead ball. But it was ridiculous. Kayla was mad. I don't blame her. They had a hot mic on her. I was nervous for the hot mic.
Yeah.
I was nervous.
There are definitely some rules in that particular sport that don't make a ton of sense.
It's gross.
I'm with you on that.
Fire everybody.
All right, I lied. One more quick Syracuse thing. Ross Douglas is at Oregon now, their wide receivers coach. It was announced yesterday, about this time, a couple hours later, that they're looking to hire Green Bay Packers assistant Miles White to take Ross Douglas's spot. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to BS and pretend I know a ton about Miles White, but it's got to be reassuring that Ross Douglas was a guy with some NFL background and Fran Brown went and found another.
Yeah, a guy who's played the position in the NFL. I think he appeared in 19 games over the course of a couple of seasons in the NFL as a wide receiver. He's got some college experience, obviously has the NFL experience with the Packers that you mentioned. And, again, resume looks good. I mean, we don't know a ton about him, but we'll see what kind of job he does.
Dateline somewhere. I don't care where.
Anywhere but here.
Do you guys know that there's a...
You gonna cry?
I might. Do you know that there's a vault in Norway where they just keep everything in a frozen vault underneath
What's everything?
Like everything, in case of a nuke or an apocalypse.
Did not know this, no.
Yeah, I just found out about it. And they have seeds for all plants and everything so that if an asteroid hits us or the bomb gets dropped, which I would take.
Could start over.
Yeah, we can all start over. So there's a doomsday vault. There's 1.3 million seeds from around the world there.
It's a lot of seeds.
I would take the asteroid right to the face. Right to the dome. Temperatures inside the vault sit at around negative 18 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that means. I'm American. And then and they just sit there, and they have foods and all sorts of stuff in there. So if it has...
What kind of food is on ice there? Like meatloaf?
There's I see tomato paste.
Okay.
Like jarred peaches.
So it's truly like emergency, like disaster relief type stuff.
Yeah, it's basically so if that asteroid hits me directly in the face that I'm praying for tonight, just start trekking to Norway if you survive.
All right.
Because they've got a huge vault.
Does it have to be tonight? Like, can it be at a time I'm not in the same building as you?
If it hits me in the face, we're all gay. It's just going to be...
It's too close either way.
It's going to be a lot less painful for me if it hits me squarely in the head.
Well, I don't need to be in the same building.
Supercats says the chance of it... Now, this is funny. The chance of an asteroid hitting... the Earth is around 2 to 3%, like Eshu's chance of winning the ACC tournament.
2% is pretty good.
I know. I think that's higher than an asteroid.
All right, we'll take our final timeout. We'll wrap things up next.
I'm sorry, everybody. I lost my shit. Crater Face Sibylla, I'll take it. That was my nickname in high school because I had pimples. Thanks for bringing back the horrible memory.
I'm going to be honest. If you're giving me draw, no bet, pick 'em odds, Syracuse wins the ACC tournament or asteroid hits Earth.
That's a push.
Before like the end of the year, I'm definitely taking the asteroid at pick 'em odds.
Well, you got to take SU because if you win the bet, you can't collect about the asteroid.
Oh, that is a great point.
So you got to take SU.
Well, I mean, what if an asteroid hits the Earth? Like, are we all done?
With my luck,
are there small
Syracuse
asteroids?
JJ would be going up for the ACC winning basket, and then the asteroid had hit.
Oh man, Matt Park would be so mad that the broadcast got ruined.
He's just whoaing the whole time.
He's
the
whoaing
world
the
ends.
Asteroid.
Oh, I'm on something today. It's a heater. Someone in our office said that you. Someone in our chat yesterday, or in our office yesterday, said you can't have a bad heist. Not that you would understand this. And I had it was a completely out of pocket comment to say you can't have a bad high. Just saying. That's why I don't smoke, because my whole life was bad highs. Steve, also, there's a Facebook and Instagram trend sharing It says you at 17 without cheating. And look at what I'm doing. I'm underage drinking, Steven.
Wow.
That picture doesn't exist.
What does you at 17 without cheating mean?
It's a picture of you at 17 without cheating on the age.
Oh, my driver's license is I'm 17.
Steve, don't post your driver's license to social media.
But I was underage drinking.
Steve, it's an online trend. It's not cool.
You haven't updated your picture? Dear God. You are 17.
I'm 17.
Neat. There's no way Steve's doing social media trends IRL.
There's no shot. There's a picture of Steve drinking Coors Light.
Can you go up
17.
to like Emma or Luke and just be like, me at 17, no cheating? Huh?
It's gotten so bad that I can't fly with it anymore because the visual recognition does not recognize me. It says we're two different people.
Get out of the house.
Why don't you just update the picture?
Because who wants to go to the DMV? Like, really? So I have a passport.
Have you never gotten like a ticket or anything, or had to change your license plates, and just gone and done both?
No, I just never did. it.
I'm News Channel 9. Stephen Fonte carries a lot of weight with the Force. Oh yeah, I'd hate to have to run a story tonight.
Is there
on
anything
over ticketing at different times of the month?
Is there anything I can burn this year? Like we
to
did
change
with
the
buddy,
mojo,
like we did with the My Buddy doll.
It's kind of too late.
Yeah, it is kind of too late because tonight's game kind of matters.
Besides Red himself, just throw.
You could burn that completely full unopened bag.
That was what I was looking at too, the chips.
Yeah.
But that's
if Syracuse wins the ACC tournament, we will open the bottle of champagne.
There we go. Or the bag of chips, and we could just eat the chips that are in that bag.
all right. We got to do this quickly. We're already late, so
I don't care.
Know the options.
I don't care. I don't know the options.
Well, these wonderful hosts care. Oh, we're stretching.
This song is the most fitting song for today's show. What have I done to deserve this? By the Pet Shop Boys. I think I played this twice, and I don't care.
I don't care either. It's a good one. All right. Options for tomorrow. We got to hurry.
We don't have to do anything. I'm the boss. All right? Whitney Houston. The Who. Whitney Houston, The Who. T-Pain. I don't know. Oh, okay. T-Pain. And the Beach Boys. Beach Boys, The Who. Whitney Houston, T-Pain.
Whitney.
I'm going T-Pain because she moves her body like a cyclone, if you know what I mean, Steve. You know what that song means?
Yeah.
T-Pain.
Yes! We're also all going to be feeling pain tomorrow if NC State wins.
T-Pain has got a mansion in Wisconsin.
Tomorrow has the potential to be a very interesting show. We'll leave it at that.
So does tonight's post-game show. Atan and Eric Devendorf will be joining Tim Leonard for the post-game show tonight. So tune in after.
All right. We got to go. Newhouse Afternoons.
Get your stupidity out on them.
Right.
Steve, I wanna see a picture. I want you to take your temperature and send me a picture before the game starts tonight.
My temperature?
Yeah, because you're calling in sick tomorrow if they lose.
Oh. Potential.